Welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast, where hunters new and old come to learn and find inspiration from stories of hunts gone by. Everyone is welcome to enjoy the outdoor way of life, and there is no better time to start than right now. So let's head into the great outdoors with your host, Dylan Ray.
Welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast. I'm coming to you live from my my Oklahoma home away from home, Liberty Ranch Outfitters, or is it Liberty Ranch Outdoors?
Liberty Ranch Outdoors.
Liberty Ranch Outdoors, my Oklahoma home away from home. Now, there's only two good things about Oklahoma. The deer hunting, and then it touches Arkansas.
Yeah.
Those are the only two good things about Oklahoma. But I'm joined by Corey Corson from Liberty Ranch. Corey, how are you, man?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself this morning?
Oh, wonderful. Much needed rain we got today.
Yes, just enough to let it soak in the ground a little.
Yeah, I rolled in here with the hopes of looking around and seeing the place and setting up some Wise-Eye cameras, and we got a little bit of rain, so I don't know if we'll be able to get to all the places we want to go, but still be a fun day.
Absolutely. We can make the best out of what we got.
But I am I'm looking forward to hunting with you guys this year, and only about 2 hours from home, so it's going to be fun to be able to, I can just kind of leave in the mornings, get here and hunt, and spend some time with you guys. Now, you guys run a heavy management system around here. Like, you were brought in because you have a wildlife degree, correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
So what's your role here?
On paper, you can consider me the wildlife biologist and agritourism manager, more or less just agritourism, more just for some horse trails and stuff like that. We throw that in there.
Now, you guys have a cattle operation and the deer hunting operation.
Yes, we do some preconditioned calf operation, and we do lease some grazing rights out on the ranch. But for the most part, it has little effect on some of the wildlife since we have such a vast property here.
6,800 acres, correct?
Just a little over 68, like 6886, I believe is the exact number.
That's awesome, man. No, I've heard so many people talk about deer hunting in Oklahoma, and I went to college in Oklahoma. Deer hunted it a couple times, but never had a place to put in the work and call my own. And so I'm excited to get down here this year and spend some time hunting with you guys. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I'm sure, like you said, the last few years, Oklahoma's been on the up and up as far as some really nice bucks taken across the state, and just the mindset of some of the people in the state as far as managing for a better herd.
Now, I'll tell you what I like about Oklahoma. And, Oklahoma's not the only state to be said about this, but when you look at Oklahoma, if you're hunting, it's almost like you can hunt 10 different states inside Oklahoma. And what I mean by that is, you've got southern Oklahoma, and then you've got the hills of Oklahoma, then you've got out west, and then you've got, it's so much different hunting environments in Oklahoma that it's a blast, man.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
You've got bears, hogs, deer, what else you got? You don't have antelope?
No, we have no antelope here.
Okay. I didn't know if out west if you had any antelope.
Some probably in the panhandle, with some elk and stuff as well, potentially. Yeah. That would be nothing around where we're at in Pawhuska, though.
Right. Yeah, I forgot to say, we're in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, which is funny. I told my wife last night, she said, "Now, where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Pawhuska, Oklahoma, to a ranch I'm going to be hunting there." And she said, "Oh my gosh, this is where Pioneer Woman's at." And she came down a few months ago and spent a day over there. And I said, "Yeah, that's who I'm hunting with." And she was like, "No way." And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess they're big fans of bear archery, and so I'm going to go hunt with them." And she kind of freaked out a little bit. But tip to all the males out there, if you're planning a hunt, and plan it in an area your wife wants to go too, because then she's not like, "You're gone for a week." Well, you can say, "Well, you come with me. You spend a week at Pioneer Woman. I'll spend a week hunting."
Yeah, absolutely.
Same with she wants to go on this Nicholas Sparks tour or something in North Carolina. So I'm like, "Well, I'll plan a hunt in North Carolina, and you go on your lighthouse tour."
Hey, absolutely. That sounds like a perfect combination to me.
I recently was talking with Harv Ebers, who is his dad is the current, or his son is the current president of Pope and Young, and he was one of the founding members of Pope and Young. And he talked about how his wife goes on all these crazy vacations to Rome and Italy and all these places. And he's like, but you can't hunt there.
Yeah.
So he's like, I just plan my own hunting vacations.
Plan it while she's away as well.
There you go. Before we dive in, let me give a quick thank you to my friends over at Initial Ascent. A couple episodes back, I guess it was just last episode, I talked about having received my Initial Ascent pack and haven't got to hunt with it yet, but I've put it on and put a load in it and walked around and walked a couple miles with, I don't know, maybe 50 pounds on just around my neighborhood there, and I'm incredibly impressed by the way that thing carries and how comfortable it is, even with a medium heavy load on it. And so go check out the guys at Initial Ascent. I'm running the IA2K, and it's just a phenomenal pack. So go check out Initial Ascent. Now let's talk a little bit about your management here. What all goes into your guys' deer management?
Well, to start off, we do a supplemental protein feed program. We have it custom made through some soothers in Kansas. A little shout out to them up there. They're part of our nutritional list on our cattle side, and being ruminants kind of helped us along with develop a protein feed. We have that across the ranch. We feed most of the year. Of course, during the rut, they slow down, but it's still available for them. And along with some of that protein feed, we do some habitat work to help encourage, some bedding, as well as, just natural forage for them to browse on and help bring up the fawn crop as well. We do several different things as far as trying to for target bucks. We try to keep it as a more of an age structure over score or any antler size, more of an age structure to help balance and know we're getting those deer to maturity to where we can have the best deer possible that we can grow and what our property here at the ranch can provide for.
Yeah, so I remember I didn't get to chat with you then, but my boss there at Pope and Young, you guys did a raffle giveaway for us, and I remember hearing you talk about kind of your deer management practices, and I was like, these guys got it figured out. Like, they're the real deal, It's not just go out and hunt and kill whatever comes in, and but not only that, all season long the deer management that you guys practice, I was impressed by. So, what kind of deer score wise do you have here?
You can say I'm going off of good average mature deer. Whether it's a harvested deer or not, that's kind of irrelevant for this answer, in my opinion. But a good mature 5 to 6 year old deer, a good range would be 145 to 160 inches. You could get a deer in relatively easy.
Welcome to Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
Welcome to Oklahoma.
Of course, you always hope for them outliers, that little bigger Boone and Crockett plus, and so.
Now, when you say you're looking for an age structure to harvest deer, what is that age that you're looking to harvest them at?
We're looking no sooner than 5 years old. That's just in my background. That's when they reach maturity, and in this part of the country, in my opinion, being the Midwest, where we do get some harsh winters occasionally, but just in the growing season, about 5 to 6 is probably the mature age.
Now, in this part of the country, and you mentioned it, what age do you start seeing a decrease?
Well, some of that can come depending on the specific deer itself. Some of that can come at 6, 7 years old. I've seen deer drop at 5 years old. Of course, that's living hard, I suppose, sometimes. But at 7 or 8, if they can make it that long, I would say is a definite going downhill.
Yeah. I the first deer I harvested with my bow, I remember harvesting it and taking it into the taxidermist, and he said, "Yeah, he's 7 years old. You would have killed him 2 years ago. It would have been a lot bigger." And of course, that was Arkansas, and deer just don't, not necessarily harsh winters, but they don't have the nutrition value to make it that far. 90% of their diet consists of acorns. There's no crop ground. There's no, they're not feeding on corn or soybeans or anything like that. So, but yeah, I remember thinking like, crap, why didn't I, what I mean? But my dad ended up, 2 nights later harvesting one of that buck's offspring, which was a year younger and a little bigger. And so, I was just curious. I'm always curious to hear, in what areas, when you start seeing that decrease. Of course, in Kansas, they can go 8-9 without decreasing.
Yeah, that's another thing that comes into factor, just having that nutrition availability and providing, giving them the most resources they can, and they can get to that point 7 or 8 years old before they start to decrease. That's what we're trying to do, make sure they got the best of what they need.
Now, as far as the ranch goes, I've seen a couple really beautiful cabins. What all do you guys have amenity-wise, I guess?
Are you talking just across the ranch in general, or more towards the hunting?
More towards the hunting side of things.
Of course. So I guess a little background. We're relatively new hunting operation. This will be about our 4th year in operation. So we are starting to build on a lot of things, but we look forward to this year. We're going to put up a few more shooting houses for skeet shooting. More, I guess you could say, a trail shooting.
Very cool.
And we're going to put up a new rifle range and extend it out to 400 yards. Just for a few people that like to shoot. We do mostly bow hunting here on the ranch, and I'm going to try to keep it that way, but there's always a few that like to shoot.
There's always a couple little girls in there. I'm just I'm just kidding.
But
don't start sending me hate mail. I'm just kidding.
Absolutely not. But as far as that goes, we're our lodges, our one lodge sleeps 8, all 4 bedrooms, queen beds, 2 bathrooms. Our other lodge sleeps 2. If you know each other, you can sleep more than that. We got a pull-out couch as well, but we try to keep it at 2 as far as number of beds in there. And of course, we have 6,800 acres of beautiful Oklahoma Osage Hills.
Awesome ground. And again, I'm super excited to kind of drive around and look at stuff. But, when you're coming in here, if you find your deer lease at a dead-end road on a 2-mile dirt road, that's a good deer lease.
Absolutely.
That's a good deer lease.
You've reached the end of the road.
Yes,
for sure.
Sir. No, beautiful cabins. The first time I took my wife on a hunt at an outfit, I've got some buddies who run an outfit in Missouri, and they have a 12,000 square foot built as a Cabela's Lodge.
Yep.
Just gorgeous, And so I took my wife there, and she loved it, of course. They've got a sauna and a hot tub indoors and all that good stuff, and a full kitchen and candy bar and for the kids, and just a gorgeous place. And then I took her on another hunt. I'm not going to name the outfitter, but I took her on another hunt, and it was in Maine. And we get up there in the North Maine woods, and we drove in there, and her eyes got real big. She's like, I have to sleep here for 8 days.
Accommodations weren't quite the same, huh?
No, they were not. It was like, a separate bathhouse, and then if the generators are off at night, you got to go to the outhouse, and she was just kind of
Backwoods.
She had big eyes, man, and I'm like, don't worry, it'll be fun. And but no, so I always look at accommodations, because I love my wife tagging along with me, and so she acts as my camera gal quite often. And so, the first thing I looked at was cabins and showed her, and she's like, those are beautiful. You guys just built 2 new cabins, right?
Yeah, those cabins were the hunting lodges. One smaller cabin finished in the summer of 18, and the bigger cabin was finished in the summer of 19. So relatively new, with most 3 to 3 years old, you could say.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Beautiful. Did you guys build those yourself?
We participated in the building. We did not build them ourselves. Yes.
Yeah, I told my wife I'm in the process. I'm in the process of having a camper built. My friends over at NZ Campers are building me a custom Hunting 101 camper, and it's going to be awesome. First off, if you haven't checked out NZ Campers, go check them out. But there's going to be a couple bunk beds in there and a little kitchenette and a pull-out Camp Chef grill, and it's going to be really cool. And I told her, I said, well, we might just have to pull the camper up there and hunt. And but I'm excited about getting up here and hunting with you guys. Beautiful lodges, beautiful ground. Not much else you could ask for.
No, well, just besides some deer, I think we have those as well. So.
Yeah, and I've seen some cows out here, man. So I'm like, we're probably gonna be eating pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Fresh steak, hamburger, everything we can get, we can provide that. We usually do for some of the hunters that come in when they want a fresh steak. So,
oh man,
you can't beat it.
You're talking my language now. Speaking of wild game, I do a segment on here every so often. the podcast is called Hunting 101, so I do Cooking 101. And I've partnered with my friends over at Rebel 6 Rubs. What they do is they have 9 different rubs, and it's for all different wild game. Now, obviously, in this area, you'd want spicy whitetail and whitetail. Those are 2 whitetail rubs, and they're all designed to accommodate the taste of that wild game. So whether it's elk or bear meat or coastal fish or whatever, they have all these different rubs to accommodate that wild game. And so I like to ask my guests, what's one either cooking tip or cooking recipe you got for wild game?
Well, I'm gonna take a step back from the deer. I do love deer meat. But if I have when it comes in season, duck. I love to eat duck.
Really?
You can't beat it, in my opinion, as far as a bird goes.
You guys got a lot of ducks here?
We get quite a few ducks through their area. A lot of mallards. We do get some pintails and gadwall, some widgeons, teal. Early season, pretty darn good.
Now, is there a lot of water on the place?
We have, I'm going to say 42 ponds.
Really?
Ranging from acreage from a half to an acre to, I think our biggest one we built 6 years ago was 7 acres.
Awesome.
I mean, we got pretty good water, and thankfully across the ranch there's plenty of springs and seeps coming through some of the rock beds and stuff. So there's plenty of water throughout the ranch.
That's awesome. What other kind of birds do you have?
Our quail population is doing phenomenal. And we hope to keep that going. So that's really nice to see.
That's some of my favorite wild game right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Turkeys numbers here in the area have been decreasing in a lot of parts of the area, Kansas as well as Arkansas. I know a few in Missouri, but
yeah, we had a bad ice storm. What was it, last year?
End of October, maybe.
Yeah,
we had a pretty bad one.
Took a turkey pheasants as well.
Yeah, we're. Unfortunately, we don't have any pheasants, but so really you got your white-tailed deer. Fortunate enough not to have hogs on the property, is they can be pretty detrimental.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
And then we have, of course, quail doing well, ducks, and turkey population. We have some turkeys, but I wouldn't say a huntable population. So we're going to try to do some things to increase some roost success, some nesting success. We may implement a few fake roost trees, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I've seen some stuff in some of my work I've done past through college in South Texas. They made some that were very successful, so we may piggyback off of some of that. But
we need to loop back to your duck recipe.
Yeah.
Here. But before we move on, that's what I love about this place, man. And just, hearing you talk the first time and now hearing you talk, you guys have a conservation mindset across the board. Some people lose sight of everything else because they're only worried about deer, and they lose sight of everything else because they're only worried about turkeys or you name it. And and you guys have a conservation mindset across the board and building just a healthy population of everything, not just your deer. And that's what I appreciate. Have you seen I'm trying to think of what it's called, the Back 40 series by Meat Eater?
yes, I have. Yep.
See, and that's what, I kind of course, this is a lot bigger of a property, but that's what you guys, to me, emulate, is building a healthy population for everything. Your crops, your cattle, your deer, your turkey, your doves. You didn't say doves, did you?
Yeah,
Quail.
but we do have plenty of dove.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
because again, you build a population where everything can thrive, and that's what I appreciate. Now, back to ducks. Give me your duck cooking tip.
So, let's say you just limit it out on morning hunt, fantastic hunt. You come back, you got to clean them. Ducks, you can do it 2 different ways. Best way I like to do it is just breast them out. And once you get some of the skin and all that stuff cleaned out, I like to cut a little pocket in it, in the duck breast.
Mm-hmm.
Not completely butterfly it or anything, just cut a little slit and leave half inch or so on either side. So it's just a little pocket. And then just let them sit on the counter as you saute some onions and apples. I like to use Honeycrisp apples. They're just my favorite apple in general to taste with them. Let them saute in a pan with some brown sugar and a little bit of butter until the apples and the onions are all the same color, caramelizes a little bit. No more than 10-15 minutes, most likely, medium heat. Take that concoction and fill them pockets in that duck breast with it. You may, once you get them full, jam as much as in there as you can. You'll appreciate it later. You may have to put a toothpick in the ends to kind of seal it up. And, of course, bacon. You just wrap it and slice of bacon, throw it on the grill, hot and quick. And, of course, don't cook it too long. You'll take that toughness right in, cook that toughness right into it. So duck's pretty quick and hot. 3 minutes to 4 minutes on 400 to 500 degree grill, somewhere in that type range. 4 to 5 minutes on either side. Pull them off and enjoy.
And that's when you sprinkle some of that waterfowl seasoning from Rebel 6 on there and enjoy.
Absolutely.
Oh, my gosh. Now, if you don't like duck, it's because you don't know how to cook duck. Let me just tell you something.
Usually that's how it works. They end up cooking it just a tad too long.
If you don't like duck, it's because you don't know how to cook duck. And, I mean, do you leave... what temperature do you try to reach? Do you try to reach a certain temperature in there?
Well, I like to do it over charcoal. Just gives a little better flavor, in my opinion, rather than over a propane or gas grill.
Yeah.
So they're really not. Most of the charcoal grills don't have a thermometer, but
right.
Just as long as I'll give you another tip for it. When you're cooking it, if the bacon is still sticking to the grill, it's not done. Just let the bacon to where you should be able to pull it up, and it'll come right off like nonstick. And then you can flip it over. But if you do that before, you'll fight the bacon, rip it, and then you'll have a mess on your hands.
Oh, man. Well, it's lunchtime now, so
hey.
You got any ducks in the freezer?
I do not think I do, actually.
Guys, head over to Rebel 6 Rubs and use code BEAR101 at checkout and get yourself a discount. They have some phenomenal seasoning, some phenomenal rubs. Most of your wild game, if you mess it up, it's because you cooked it too long.
Mm-hmm.
That's 100% why. And people have this misconstrued idea, especially with ducks, I feel. They have to cook it beyond well done. And I'm like, no, you're messing it up. Now, have you ever had speckled belly?
I have not had speckled belly, no.
It is the finest waterfowl on planet Earth.
Really?
Sandhill, of course. Everybody talks about sand. Do you have cranes here?
We get a few of them that fly over. We don't have any ag fields or anything on the property where they'll kind of land in. But
man, speckled belly geese are phenomenal. Phenomenal eating wild game. I like to slice those breasts real thin. And, I cook it, and then I slice it real thin and put it on a sandwich.
Oh, okay.
Lord have mercy, it's good. Now, back to the ponds, and I heard you say you built them. Did you build them, how do I want to phrase this? Did you build them in specific locations and ways to help deer, or?
Some of the ponds, when they were built, were mainly being historically a cattle ranch. They were built for stock tanks, mainly just for cattle to have access to water. And how some of them are built, they're kind of built in stages where you'll have one pond further up the draw, and then 3/4 of the way down that draw you'll have another one just to optimize some catching water. But for the most part, they were cattle oriented when they were built.
I got you. Now, is that something to where I'm anxious to just ask you so I know on my properties. If you were to say I need to put water for my deer, and I'm thinking of one property. I'm thinking of one property particularly that I have, and I know I'd have to kind of just show it to you. But is there a tip you have to put water for deer?
Well, just kind of like keep it close to a food source. I mean, they kind of got little quirks like we do as humans. You eat some, you get thirsty to help cleanse their palate, all that kind of stuff. I ain't exactly sure if that's what it does, but they get thirsty just like most animals or anybody when they eat.
And there's a reason we put our fridge in our kitchen, so it's right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Sink's right across from it usually. Yeah. But that would be if you were going to use it for just to have, you needed water, have no water on the property kind of thing. That's what I would do it, gear it towards. If you're trying to build something to use it as a diversion to where, deer may have to go this way around you or something to make a pinch point or a travel or a funnel, that could be a little different.
I got you.
But
Now, before we move on, I get people all the time asking me. They call me and say, well, if I'm just a whitetail hunter, what do I need a Garmin for? I'm not going out west. I'm not, and I'll tell you why I use a Garmin. And just today, driving around these properties and looking at where I'm going to be hunting, I want to have something quick and easy to mark a location, mark a point, say shed, or here's my blind, or here's my tree stand, or here's a heavy trail, whatever. And so that's what I use my watch for 90% of the time. And so, guys, go check out Garmin. Even if you're just a whitetail hunter, I promise you, they come in very handy, very useful in the whitetail woods, because you can just mark locations quick, easy on your wrist. You don't have to pull my phone out. I don't have to open something, wait for it to load. I just click save location, and I can go back and name it later. As for why I saved it. Also, if you're a whitetail hunter, I find it very useful in tracking deer. I can start a follow me on my watch, and I know exactly where I've looked for that deer at. And if I'm on a blood trail, I can go back and look at the exact way I walked later on and see where the deer ran to. Where if I have to come back the next morning and look for the deer again, it's very useful to go back and see the trail. So guys, go check out Garmin, because I'm a huge Garmin believer. I use it every day in fitness tracking, but also as a whitetail hunter, they come in very, very useful. So go check out Garmin.
Absolutely, I'd have to agree. I have an E-Trax 10. It's an older model, but you got to keep it in my pocket. Out in the ranch, I mark coveys of quail, sheds, where I find sheds, matching sets, just like you said, pinch points, funnels, heavy trails. Very, very good knowledge provider.
Absolutely. And then you can go back later on and pull it up on your computer, pull it up on your phone, and look at it on a map and see where you marked it and stuff. And so very useful, and that's something I get so many questions about. People hear me talking about Garmin, and they say, well, if I'm not going out west, what I need a Garmin for? Well, they're very useful in the whitetail woods as well. Even so, I've used them to mark my tree stands, and then that next morning I can see in correlation to where I'm parking the best route to get to that tree stand, whatever it might be. So go check out Garmin because they have a tool for everybody. Now, Fred Bear is big on his field notes. And so what's one field note you've taken over the years that I can put in my back pocket and make myself a better hunter with?
Well, it's something that I have learned through the years of hunting and being a wildlife biologist, something that I never really thought of when I was younger. Was thermals and your winds with the thermals, especially out here on the ranch where we have a vast terrain change, and it could be very quick. Drop off 60, 70 feet, or it could be gradually over 900 acres, 3 draws, feed 3 different directions. Depending on the wind, it's going to go up or down one of those draws.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. That's one thing. Be mindful of your thermals, where, they rise in the morning and settle in the evening. You don't want to necessarily go down into the bottom in the evening when everything's starting to settle. You're going to blow a lot of deer type stuff. Same thing in the morning. You don't want to necessarily, you want to be mindful of what's above you, what's below you, how some of that wind is taking your thermals. And if you start to pay attention to it before you use it, you'll notice if you deer pick up on it, and you'll notice that's what it is. Now,
run me through some tips on thermals. So if you're going to hang a new set and you're thinking this is primarily an evening spot, or primarily a morning spot, either one, what are you looking for in terms of where your thermals will be?
Well, I'm looking. I like to pick out the tree, or I like to pick out the spot if you can first, and then the tree. Because depending on where that tree is going to affect your thermals, as far as if it's on the edge right before it drops off. That'd be a great spot for a morning, potentially, because all your thermals, you're going to be a pinch point, and the deer should funnel down below you, unless...
so your thermals are rising, but the deer are below you.
In the morning, so you won't have them below you, whether the wind's out of the... especially if they're below you on, elevation wise, if the wind's out of that direction, or even if it's out of the opposite direction with your thermals rising in the morning, I wouldn't recommend it, but you could necessarily hunt with that deer being downwind and the wind going towards them, just because your thermals would settle or rise in the morning and take them
Right.
off, as well as your scent.
Now, what's for people who listening and who maybe haven't had that conservation across the board mindset, what would you say your first off, great tip. Let me just say that, great tip on thermals, because again, a lot of people, going back to the Garmin thing, a lot of people think thermals when they're out west and up and down the mountain, but they neglect to think about the thermals when they're deer hunting, and they only think about wind direction. Well, if your wind direction's good but your thermals are bad, you're just as screwed. So thermals come into play just as much deer hunting as they do anything else. So great tip, first and foremost. But for somebody who hasn't had that conservation mindset across the board, what's the first step you would give somebody in saying you want to create a healthy habitat for all wildlife? You know, maybe somebody just bought a farm, 40 acres, a hunting farm, and they want to have just a healthy population of everything. They want a turkey hunt, they want a whitetail hunt, they want a duck hunt, they want a whatever. What's the first step you say somebody needs to take in having that conservation mindset?
Get in the property and pretty well put foot over almost every inch of it that you can, just to see what, in fact, species you do have, as far as flora and signs of some wildlife as well. You got a monoculture of, say, a forest stand, and it's a thick forest stand and there's no ground cover. I mean, you're going to have to do some clearing as far as some timber goes to get some forbs and stuff on the understory to provide some bedding and that kind of stuff. So first step would be get in, get your hands dirty, get your boots, get some wet feet, and see exactly what you have and what you need to get back on the property. I mean, most likely there's a seed bank in the soil, whether it's going to be a disturbance through cutting trees, fire, disking, several different options as far as disturbances goes. But first you need to get out and get your feet dirty, hands dirty, and see what exactly you have on your property.
So what would you say the primary, three things would be? Looking at a property, what's three things you think this property has to have? Top three things.
You need food, bedding, and of course we're going to go back to that water.
Very good. And so that's look at it with those top three things. Now, of course, there's several things to look at after that. But start with those three things and look at that. And that back 40 series that we mentioned, put out by Meat Eater, is a great resource because they look at everything: squirrels, rabbits, turkeys, ducks, deer. They look at everything, and how to create that habitat. And even I think they even look at like bees and stuff. And
pollinator species.
Yeah. And so, there's a lot of things after those three things. But if you want to have that conservation mindset and build a healthy property for all sorts of game, look at those three things first: bedding, food, and water. Because if you have those, you can get by.
Absolutely. That's even with the ranch being 6,800 acres. I try to break it into smaller chunks and focus
Absolutely.
on this. Well, it might not be 40 acres, but it may be 100 or 200
Right.
acres. What do I have within this? What can I improve to get the better habitat or better food, water, or whatever we need? Luckily, it's a little bigger scale, but you need to break some chunks down to get it fine-tuned.
Now, this might be a stupid question and a hard question to answer, but and again, looking not only at deer but healthy populations of everything, is there one food source that you find to be beneficial, across the board for everything, rather than just deer?
Well, that's a tough one. It really is. Forbs. It could be several different forbs, but just having some forbs across the ranch are good for turkeys, good for sorry, that look on your face when you picked up that shed just kind of made me chuckle. But forbs, they could be good for deer, good for ducks if they're in the right spot around some water, quail, turkeys, back to all your pollinator species as well. Forbs are one thing you have to have. You can't just have a monoculture of grass, switchgrass. Can't just have a monoculture of oak trees with all the acorns you need. They need more than just a monoculture.
Now, you laugh when I picked up the shed. Sweet looking shed, by the way.
He's still running around, so
I'll shoot him this fall.
That split there on his G3, it kind of reversed this year. It's coming out of the outside instead on the inside. But he's still got that little sticker. You got your ring finger on.
Well, I promise you, he's got a Easton Axis waiting for him that I'll put through his heart. No, speaking of sheds, though, I picked this up, and for somebody who is so conservation mindset, how do you use sheds?
Depending on the time of year, I find them. Luckily, being here in Oklahoma, we do burn in the spring, so it's at times easier to find sheds than others. But for the way I like to look at it is where they're going to be late season when they drop their antlers, or where they're going to be early season. Just given the time frame, and in between you got the rut and a few things which sends them off kind of on their own. But that's going to help provide a home range, a good core area most likely. At least fine tune it, especially if you have everything you need, some of that food, shelter, water around there. He's not going to have to go too far. So you can start to, especially if you find some sets, you can get a little better idea on that home range and just use some of that stuff with going back to the Garmin. Like we have three years of sheds there that you just picked up, and they were all found within an 80-acre chunk. If you put it to a map,
80 acres.
At least at the end of the year, yes, yep.
So again, going back, you can look back and say, okay, I pinpointed this deer in 2018 here on my watch. I pinpointed the deer here in 2019 on my watch, 2020 here on my watch. He's within this square.
Yep, and you have, of course, most people have trail cameras, so if you have trail cameras throughout the area as well over those 3 years, you can get a darn good idea on that home range.
Last year, one time, I had two cameras, and they were only, 100 yards from each other maybe. And I got a picture of a buck, and 8 minutes later, he was in front of the other camera, no antlers. In front of the first one, he had both antlers. Second one, he had no antlers. So I'm like, so within this, he dropped both antlers in 8 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever the time difference was. And so I went back, and they were WiseEye cameras, so they're cellular. So I was like, well, I need to go out there. And sure enough, man, walked that path, found both sheds.
Absolutely.
Pretty cool deal.
Works out great.
Do you utilize any kind of cell cameras?
We have not in the recent years. Going forward, we may. Just getting some service down in some of these bottoms at points.
Right.
There is none, so it doesn't work out very well. But
I heard a guy one time, I'm trying to think of who it was. I think it might have been Bill Winky. I don't want to. Anyways, it was one of those classic known big buck killers.
Absolutely.
Chuck Adams or Bill Winky or one of those guys. And they said, if you're going in to check your trail cameras, quit trying to be stealthy. And I'm like, what do you? And I couldn't understand, I didn't wrap my mind around it. He's like, dude, if I could drive an RV to my trail cameras, I would.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I couldn't get it at first. He's like, they're used to tractors and four-wheelers and whatever you're pulling in there. What they're not used to is people stalking around and stealthing around, trying to be quiet and going to check cameras. And I was like, man, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I always, if it's a combine, I'll take it back there or whatever, because those deer are used to seeing those. But they're not used to me traipsing around in there. Yeah. So there's another tip off if you want to go check your trail cameras. Do it on a four-wheeler. My hunting buggy's a golf cart, and so whatever it is, drive it back there and check it, because those deer all year long are used to seeing tractors and four-wheelers and combines or whatever it might be. So just another quick tip.
The things that are out of the ordinary are what trip their trigger.
Yes, sir. Well, Corey, thank you so much for coming on, guys. Stay tuned, because this fall I'm going to be hunting here quite a bit, and can't wait for you guys to hear and see how this hunt unfolds. Go check out Liberty Ranch Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram, because they have an incredible operation here. And like Corey said, they are new to the hunting game, but with such a conservation mindset, I promise you this, you'll be seeing some giants killed off here. So go follow Liberty Ranch on Facebook and Instagram. But again, stay tuned, because I can't wait to kind of tell you how my hunt unfolds here. And hopefully we'll be coming back to you sometime in November talking about a deer I got to harvest out here. So.
Absolutely, even sooner maybe.
Yes, sir. Speaking of that, let's. I've already started my outro, but in Oklahoma, in your part of the country, what's the best time of year to pin down a deer? Early, late, rut? If you were to say you've got one opportunity to come hunt and you want to kill a big deer, this is your time.
Well, that's going to throw in a lot of personal preference, but if you just have a limited number of time and you're after one deer, and specifically, and you can get on him early season, first week or two of season, while it's here in Oklahoma, it's the first week of October. I know in a few other states it's actually in September. You can get them on that summer pattern still. But if you can't make it happen early, late season, no doubt.
So skip the rut altogether.
Yeah. And I shouldn't say yeah, but
the older I get, man, the more I learn the rut is a fun time to hunt, but it's a hard time to hunt because there's no predictions. Like there's no...
You can't go into the rut with just one buck in mind.
No, sir.
Because there's going to be several more that pass and press you to think about it.
There will be deer in that rut that you've never seen before.
Absolutely,
ever.
Yeah.
And so the rut is a fun time to hunt, but it's I don't want to say the hardest time to hunt, but it is the most challenging time to hunt because there's no way to pin him down. There's no way to say where's he going to be, where's he going to go. I mean,
he could be here this morning, and by lunch he could be
2 miles away.
Yeah,
wherever his girlfriend is, that's where he'll be.
Wherever she takes him. Late season, I think, would probably be pinpointed down. Late season would be the key for me.
Late season is and you might have to sit in 10-degree weather and dumping snow on you, but sit over food, and they're coming to food.
Absolutely.
They've had a hard rut. They got to replenish. They got to recharge the batteries and put that weight back on, so they're going to be hitting food. And I find myself all the time kicking myself because I'll shoot a deer in the rut, just like you said. I'll have a deer come in and tempt me. Well, then late season I'll be checking cameras, and sure enough, that one top-of-the-line buck is
the one you want
on the corn every morning on the cornfield or winter wheat or whatever every morning, and I'm like, God, he'd be so easy to kill right now. So yeah, late season is phenomenal.
Just for that reason. I grew up in Ohio. I love the cold. I love the snow.
Me too.
So that's why I'm biased towards it. But I think if you look down in your books, trail cameras, late season for that one buck, that's going to be your time to get on him.
And if you say, I just want to see a lot of deer and I want to kill a good buck, the rut. I mean, hunt the rut.
Absolutely. A lot of activity.
I never take my kids late season. Too cold. They'll be miserable. But if I want to take a kid hunting with me, I'm going to take them in the rut. Because they'll see deer run by. They'll see deer sprint by. They'll see deer, huffing and puffing and spitting and stomping. And it's an exciting time to hunt. So if you're trying to get a kid involved, the rut.
Oh, just anybody involved. I mean, there's things that happen, whether you're 60, 70 years old and been hunting most of your life, that happen for the first time during the rut. Just because there is no plan. Like you said, there's just
right.
Throw 52 cards near and hope you can catch one kind of thing is what the rut is.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, go check out Liberty Ranch. Go check out my friends over at Nexus Outdoors. I'm a huge fan of ScentLock, and they have some awesome things in store for you. And I think that's all I can share right now, but they've got some cool things coming out that I'm incredibly excited about. So go check out Nexus Outdoors and all of their brands, ScentLock, Scent Blocker, Oz by ScentLock, and because you're going to want to stay tuned for what they got coming out here in the next few months and the next upcoming year. So go check out Nexus Outdoors. Go check out Liberty Ranch. And, guys, make sure, and if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, make sure and subscribe because we've got some awesome things in store for you this year, some awesome giveaways with the new 2022 lineup coming that we're going to do some cool giveaways with. So if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, make sure and hit the subscribe button on any platform you listen to it on because there's going to be some fun, exciting things coming out in the next coming year. Thanks for listening. You guys have a great week.